Careful now. Never seen that happen.
I popped my seat up.
Oh. Here we go. 3, 2, 1.
Boom! And welcome to Today, brought to you by Boss Shot Shells. Check out BossShotShells.com. I'm Jeff Stanfield with the world famous Andy Shaver.
That's right. Today, April 14th. Quite a lot has happened. Try to break some of it down for you right now. So first of all, this is not my main thing, but the FBI top 10 most wanted list debuted today. Long time ago. 1949. The FBI institutes the 10 most wanted fugitive lists in an effort to publicize particularly dangerous fugitives. The creation of the program arose out of a wire service news story in 1949 about the toughest guys the FBI wanted to capture. The story drew so much attention that J. Edgar Hoover okayed it the following year, so it was actually 1950. I'm sorry. Since its debut, hundreds of criminals included on the list have been apprehended or located, with more than 150 as a result of tips from the public. There have only been 10 women to ever appear on the 10 most wanted list.
I bet the list sure has changed from when it first came out to today.
You think so?
Yeah, I bet today it's a whole lot more extreme criminals. I think back then probably it was a bank robber, a murderer.
Right. Right. So, anyway, the first woman was Ruth Eisman Shire. Never heard of her. Evidently, she was a pretty bad broad.
I've never heard of her either.
Never, but anyway. Top 10 most wanted debuts. Now, for my event that happened today, probably the greatest event in human history, the greatest revelation in human history. The first case of penicillin is used in 1942 to save a lady named Ann Miller. She had a streptococcal infection. At New Haven Hospital in Connecticut, penicillin was discovered by Alexander Fleming in 1928, and it was administered by Dr. John Fulton and his team, marking the first successful clinical application in humans. So he noticed mold growing on a petri dish in one of his labs, produced a substance that killed nearby bacteria. Ann Miller, dadgum. Ann Miller was a 33-year-old nurse, and she was admitted to New Haven Hospital in early 1942, suffering from a severe streptococcal infection. I'm going to say streptococcal pneumonia.
I think that's right.
Her condition stemmed from a miscarriage that led to a systemic bacterial infection causing high fever reaching 106, delirium, and life-threatening sepsis. At the time, the infection was fatal, oftentimes fatal, as antibiotics were not yet available. Treatments like sulfa drugs were either ineffective or insufficient for severe cases. I don't even know what that is. By mid-March, Miller's condition was deteriorating rapidly, and her doctors, including Dr. John Fulton, a Yale neurosurgeon and researcher, feared she would not survive. Fulton had connections to the Oxford team working on penicillin and was aware of the potential. Fortunately, a small supply of penicillin had been sent to the United States for research, partly through efforts to scale up production in collaboration with American scientists and the pharmaceutical companies like Merck. On March 14, 1942, with Miller near death, her doctors obtained permission to use the experimental batch of penicillin. The drug was administered intravenously in a small dose to the limited supply. Only about 5.5 grams were available, a tiny amount compared to modern standards. The penicillin was impure and caused side effects like chills, but that's pretty tame. Within 24 hours, Miller's fever dropped, her condition stabilized, and she began to recover. Over the next few days, she continued receiving penicillin, and her infection was eventually cured. This was the first time penicillin was ever used in the United States. Now, can you guess how many lives have been saved by using penicillin?
Oh, millions.
Estimates are around the 100 to 200 million lives.
That was off by 100 or 200 million. But I knew it was millions, yes.
Lots. Another source, the Dunn School of Pathology at Oxford, has claimed over 500 million lives. So,
a bunch of people. Great thing.
Results may vary, or results are a little different. The penicillin used in the Miller case was so precious that doctors recycled it by extracting it from her urine to reuse it during her treatment, a testament to the scarcity of the drug at the time. Okay.
Smart people a long time ago. You want me to do a follow-up on your most wanted list?
Yeah, if you'd like.
The very first person ever on that wanted list was a guy named Thomas James Holden. The veteran of crime had the distinguished honor of being the FBI's very first most wanted man. He was a menace. In 1947, Thomas James Holden was paroled after spending almost 8 years in prison for bank robbery and murder. After his release, he returned to Chicago, where he lived with his wife and various other family members. On June 5th, 1949, a family dispute turned deadly when Holden killed his wife with a single gunshot. After turning the gun on her brothers, who had rushed to her aid, Holden fled the scene of the crime. Because of the viciousness exhibited by the murder of his wife and his prior criminal history, when the list was created, the FBI declared Holden a menace to every man, woman, and child in America. Holden was spotted an alert citizen who contacted the FBI, telling him the wanted man was working construction in Beaverton, Oregon, under the alias John McCullough. On June 23rd, 1951, the G-men arrested him. That was the first guy. Second one was a guy named Morley King, who had also killed his wife. He was arrested in Philadelphia. The interesting one is number 4. The number 4 person on the top 10 list was a guy named Henry Randolph Mitchell, was known as the Little Mitch. At the racetracks he loved to frequent, but frequently lost at. Seldom back in a winter, Little Mitch often resorted to thievery to pay his gambling debts. As a result, he also did a lot of jail time. Following one of his releases, Mitchell and a friend decided to celebrate by walking into the Perkins State Bank in Williston, Florida, and walked out with $10,353. Mitchell's accomplice was caught, but Little Mitch was still at large when the FBI Most Wanted list was created. He was quickly added to as number 4. However, Henry Mitchell was dismissed from the list 8 years later when they never did catch him. But that's the difference. The list today is going to be Osama bin Laden and stuff, but that was the original list. But that's the way our society was. That was a menace back then. Mm-hmm. So anyways.
John Dillinger was on there too, I believe.
He wasn't on the first one.
No, not on the first one, but...
Oh, he probably was. But the first one, I looked all through them, and there was no big names, but it was mostly one murder, or right. and I'm not, minimizing that, but that's what it is compared to what we've got today.
Okay, my guy that was... Oh, no.
What's wrong?
I typed in something wrong. I'll have to redo this. My guy that died today, I typed in March 14th, not April 14th. The guy that died today...
Probably on March 14th. He didn't know he was going to die April 14th.
No. I got this part right. I didn't get my other one right. Bernie Madoff died today.
A lot of happy people.
Bernie Madoff ran the largest Ponzi scheme in history, defrauding investors of roughly $65 billion.
Kind of like Social Security.
Over the decades, he promised consistent high returns through his firm, Bernie L. Madoff Investment Securities, claiming to use a split strike conversion strategy. In reality, he never invested any of the money, instead using new investors' funds to pay returns to the earlier ones. The scheme collapsed in 2008 when clients demanded withdrawals he could not cover during that financial crisis. Madoff confessed, was arrested, and pled guilty in 2009 to 11 federal felonies, including security frauds and money laundering. He was sentenced to 150 years in prison and died there in 2021. Victims included individuals, charities, institutions. Many lost life savings. Recovery efforts have reclaimed over $14 billion, but full restitution remains unlikely. I just can't figure out. So I tried to do some digging as to how, like, he had to be getting audited by the SEC and everything. But basically, he used an outdated system that nobody could. His system was so outdated. His computer system was so outdated. Nobody could like figure out how to work it right. He also, by the time it got really, really big, he was an established player on Wall Street, so he kind of used his reputation to get him out of a lot of.
But he wasn't trading stocks, is what's crazy.
Yeah, but he would falsify records. Like he made it. The links that he went to make it look legit.
Well,
like he could have just
been legit.
He could have just invested the stocks. But I watched a show on him. He lost a lot of money when he first went into this line of work. They had a market crash. He lost a bunch of people a bunch of money, and he basically said he was never going to do that again. So he just used the rob Peter to pay Paul for 30 or 40 years, and then another financial crash is what sunk him.
You know, somebody out there right now got their money back. They were one of the people that pulled it before he got caught, and he paid them off, and they didn't say nothing at all about it.
Right.
But there's a lot of people lost a lot of money. Let me ask you this. He had the best lifestyle in the world. He was living a jet set world. Mm-hmm. Would you trade 30 years of a jet set life to spend 3 years in prison?
Oh, boy.
Now, if you had to do the 3 years first and then got the 30 years at the end, it would be a whole lot. It would be easier to say yes.
Right.
But would you take 30 years of jet setting, global flying everywhere in the world, private jets, buying whatever you wanted, living that life, to give up for 3 years of prison? Because he's only in prison like 3 years.
Yeah,
and
he
died,
wasn't there
right?
long, and then he went all down.
What would you do?
I don't know, man. That's tough. I mean, you got to sleep at night, right?
Well, he wasn't doing that anyways. He was screwing people forever.
Yeah, but they never knew it though. Whenever they wanted their money, he always gave them their money.
No, I know that. But did you there were some other people involved that never got in trouble in this. This is kind of a crazy deal. Have you ever seen the 2.5 Men episode where Alan's doing that?
No.
He gets owes Charlie some money. And he goes, Charlie, I can invest that money basically in something. Charlie's okay. Well, then he tells Judith about it and gets money out of her to pay Charlie back. And then Charlie goes, you mean you doubled that money in 2 weeks? He said, yeah. He goes, well, I'll tell you what, just keep it in here. I'll give you another $5,000. And then, so he takes that money over to Judith and gives her some money. And she's like, well, hold on. You just keep it. He's like, it's like they just keep wanting me to take my money. So he kept doing this for a little bit. I just saw clips of it. But anyways, it's crazy that at the extremes that he went and the money he got out of people, especially in today's modern times, because it's hard to cover up stuff.
Yeah.
Because you got to figure those people had a computer account. They could look at their account at all times and see where it was at.
Yeah, he just falsified all that. It would show he promised 10 to 12%. Sometimes it would go up to 15%. You'd log into your computer, you see that your money's doing well, and he had access on the back end of all that stuff to make it show whatever.
Where was he actually holding all that money though?
I guess in his bank account.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, you tell me somebody at some bank ain't saying this guy's got $50 billion
or maybe
in his
he
account?
deposited it all into the Madoff. Okay, hold on. Fake DTC reports. Madoff claimed his firm held securities at the Depository Trust Company. He fabricated DTC reports to show non-existent holdings, knowing most of its clients and auditors wouldn't verify directly with the DTC. I don't know. I mean, it's just
interesting times.
I don't know how they missed it. Notable clients of his were Steven Spielberg, Kevin Bacon, and Kara Sedgwick, Larry King, Sandy Koufax, Norman Brahman. I don't know who that. Billionaire auto dealer and former Philadelphia Eagles owner, and Fred Wilpon.
Yeah.
Mets
owner. Interesting guy.
That lost the most was Jeffrey Picower, a philanthropist and longtime. He lost $7.2 billion.
Wow.
Yeah, a lot of money. Another person, Stanley Kai, I don't know. He lost $3 billion. A lot of money. So since I bungled the Bourne thing, I'll give you another fun fact here because we're already here. On this date, Greg Norman blows a 6-shot lead since we just had the Masters. That is a way of life that I did not know existed.
What do you mean?
People's entire weekend was fucking wrecked. Just watching golf.
Oh, you mean the people that watch it?
I don't understand that. I'm not knocking it. I'm not knocking it at all.
You're just not a golf fan.
I just don't understand how we're going to devote 4 days to watching.
There's a lot of them do. I didn't watch one putt this year of it. Sometimes I'll watch Sunday if it's interesting, if I got somebody of interest in there, but I don't.
Well, like I'm in a Snapchat group with Blake, Bucky.
Oh,
Gus,
they were all watching it.
Stoner. But they had a party, like a Super Bowl party. Blake made a prime rib yesterday for the Masters. I just don't understand it.
I would not.
I turned it on yesterday so that I could have my nap. It was fantastic. It was almost like a football Sunday kind of nap.
The only thing I read about the thing was on my threads, all the liberals were mad Bryson DeChambeau didn't win because he's a Trump guy. They were happy that he didn't win.
But I don't know. I don't know anything about it. I don't even know, like...
Well, I got news for him. 90% of them golfers out there are Trump people.
But, like, was he in a pairing with Rory?
I have no idea. I didn't watch it.
I don't know. I don't know how all that works. But anyway, April 14th, 1996, third round leader Greg Norman loses a 6-shot lead in the final round of the Masters Golf and finishes second. One of the worst collapses in sports history. Nick Faldo wins the green jacket, finishing 5 strokes ahead of Norman. I played like a bunch of expletive, the Australian tells reporters afterwards. I just didn't get the job done. In shooting a 78 in the final round, Norman had 4 bogeys, 5 double bogeys. The tournament marked the 7th time in 8 major championships that he failed to hold a final round lead.
Yep.
Faldo, who shot a final round 67, embraced Norman after completing this round. I don't know what to say to you. I just want to give you a hug.
Yeah, it was a bad deal. I remember it. It was the biggest failure ever in golfing.
So anyway, that's some of the stuff that happened today.
Thank you for listening. God bless y'all. Have a great week.
Pray for Greg Norman.
Yep.